What if I told you that a king once gave up the most powerful throne in the world for love? That he walked away from an empire, not for war, not for politics, but for a woman the world refused to accept. Today, on Legends of Love, we bring you one of the most scandalous and heart-wrenching romances in modern history, the true story of King Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson. A love so bold, it changed the face of the British monarchy forever. Before he was king, Edward was the Prince of Wales, the most eligible bachelor in the world. Tall, charismatic and rebellious, he didn't fit the rigid mould of a future king. While his father, King George V, was cold and distant, Edward longed for warmth, freedom and emotion. In the roaring 1920s and 30s, Edward mingled with aristocrats, actresses and Americans. He loved jazz, fast cars and breaking royal protocol. And then came Wallis Simpson. She wasn't a princess. She wasn't even British. She was a twice-divorced American woman with sharp wit, magnetic charm, and a past that made high society whisper. Edward met Wallis through mutual friends at a party in 1931. At first, she was just another guest, but there was something about her. Her confidence, her honesty, her ability to talk to him like no one else did. Wallis wasn't impressed by his title. She teased him, challenged him, and Edward, for the first time, felt seen, not as a prince, but as a man. Soon, they were inseparable. Dinners, weekend getaways, whispered phone calls. By 1934, Edward was madly in love. He showered her with gifts, wrote passionate letters, and even introduced her to his family, despite their horror.
My darling Wallis, I love you more and more each day. I can't breathe without you.
But there was one problem. Wallis was still married to her second husband. Though the marriage was failing, still to the British establishment, a divorcee, especially an American, could never be queen. In January 1936, King George V died. Edward became King Edward VIII. Now the most powerful man in Britain, he stunned the government by making his intentions clear. I intend to marry Mrs. Simpson. The nation gasped. The Church of England did not permit the king to marry a divorced woman with living ex-husbands. The government threatened to resign. Even his own mother and brother turned against him. But Edward wouldn't back down. For months there were tense secret meetings. The media, bound by royal censorship, kept quiet. But the people abroad knew. In America and Europe, newspapers were flooded with headlines about the scandalous affair. Wallis, meanwhile, fled to France to escape the storm, even offering to leave Edward to save him. She wrote, "I'll disappear if it means saving your crown. I don't want to be the woman who destroyed a king." But Edward had made his choice. On December 11th, 1936, Edward addressed the nation in a historic broadcast.
I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility without the help and support of the woman I love.
With that, Edward became the only British monarch in history to voluntarily give up the throne. His younger brother, George VI, father of Queen Elizabeth II, took over. Edward left Britain, heartbroken but defiant. 6 months later, Wallis and Edward reunited in France. On June 3rd, 1937, they were married in a small private ceremony at Château de Conde, with no members of the royal family in attendance. Edward was given the title Duke of Windsor, but Wallis was denied the title of Her Royal Highness. A final sting from the palace. For the next 35 years, the couple lived in exile, mostly in France and the US. They were the darlings of high society, dining with celebrities and presidents. But behind the glamour, there was pain. Edward missed his country. Wallis missed a simpler life. They were deeply devoted to each other, yet trapped in a life built on sacrifice. Despite rumours and scandals, their bond endured. Edward died in 1972. Wallis lived on until 1986. They are buried side by side in Windsor, near the royal family who once exiled them. Their story remains one of the most debated love stories in history. Was it a tale of true passionate love or a reckless obsession? Did Edward regret his choice? Or did he find a freedom no other monarch ever had? One thing is certain, he gave up a kingdom for her. And in doing so, he forever changed the course of the British royal family and the world's view on love and duty. If you found this royal romance as unforgettable as we did, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to Legends of Love. Tell us in the comments, do you think Edward and Wallis were truly in love? Or was it a tragic mistake? Join us next time for another timeless tale where love defied all odds.